Hello, and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is John Rose, and I want you guys to think about this for a moment. Why is it that some people are so stupid that all you have to do is tell them something a million times or two and they'll believe anything? Got one question for you fools. When did you stop counting? When did you lose count? You're so stupid. You people are so stupid. All you have to do is tell you something a million times or two and you'll believe it. But that's what's happening, isn't it? I did a video on that. Satan's secret weapon. We're bombarded with so much bullshit in our brains that most people cannot even discuss really important issues because they already think they know. It's called conventional wisdom. Anytime a whole bunch of people believe in bullshit, it's because it's contrived, it's paid for, and we're not even aware of it. But if you want to find out more, a really good book to read is Trust Us, We're Experts. Or a really good article written on that book was by Dr. Tim O'Shea. Go to thedoctorwithin.com. An article he wrote, The Doors of Perception, Why Americans Believe Almost Anything. He did a really good book report, if I could call it that, on that book, Trust Us, We're Experts. And he explains how conventional wisdom works. Anytime a bunch of people believe vaccines work, that's conventional wisdom. Anytime we think that sunshine causes cancer, that's conventional wisdom. That doesn't cause cancer. So many of our beliefs are contrived. Our minds have been molded ever since we came out of the womb. It's like everything in our society conspires against us. And we've been around for like 300,000 generations, and it wasn't until the last 3,000 generations that we messed up. You see, we mastered something about 40,000 generations ago. Managed to go about 37,000 generations before some fool decided to make a bad application. That was 3,000 generations ago. We've been in apocalyptic times ever since then. We've been on the wrong path. Everything's conspiring against us ever since that happened. It's known as the fall of mankind. Every culture talks about it. But how many times you have somebody tell you what the reason is, what caused it? Very few people actually understand that. But I talk about this all the time, and you know that if you watched any of my other YouTube videos. If you're new to my channel, what I'm talking about is a bad application to the first thing we mastered. It was a bad application. And Dr. Francis Pottenger did a 10-year study on cats that illustrated the ill effects from this mistake. Pottenger cat study. Talk about it a lot, done several videos. I'll put some links down below to that. In the 1930s, Dr. Pottenger did an experiment with a bunch of cats. He went through 900 altogether in a 10-year period of time, kept them separate, fed them pretty much the same food, except he let half of them eat it the way they would eat it in nature, and the other half made them eat it the way we eat it, which means the fall of mankind. He made the cats fall. And guess what happened to the cats? Every problem we have, the cats had. And the reason why I'm bringing this up now is because of the problems the cats had relative to birth defects. As long as the cats ate the food the way it was meant to be eaten, unaltered, they didn't have any birth defects. And yet the cats that ate the wrong food, altered food, the same way we alter our food, they had more birth defects every generation. This doctor would measure the calcium in the cat's bones when they died. And he'd let them go whichever way. Unless he'd say, I'll quit making the mistake and feed you the right food, and everything went away. But he'd measure the calcium in these cats' bones. Because he noticed that every generation the cats were looking different. The bones were elongating, but they were getting thinner and brittle. First generation had 70% calcium in the bones. Second generation 9%. The third generation down to 4% calcium in the bones. And again, they had birth defects. The other generation didn't have birth defects. But that's where we're at right now. We're at a level right now where we have so many birth defects and so much sickness amongst our species. We're a sick species, and you know that's the whole message of my channel. We can change that. It's mainly because of the fall of mankind. That's the first of 5 mistakes we've made that is making us sick. But what's bad about this is that the sickest of us is what's keeping us where we are at. And it's a reflection of what happens when these mistakes happen. People don't realize, unless you study this, that about 4% of us are psychopaths. And the people who run everything are psychopaths, and they've got a good army to select from to do their bidding. And I was reminded of that just recently listening to this man talk about his sister. Most evil woman in the world is what he says about her. And when he described her as being her brother and what all the whole family had to do dealing with her, he was describing a psychopath. The guy he was talking with at the time on the radio threw out a word like sociopath, which she really wasn't. She was more of a psychopath. There's a difference. I'll explain that in a moment. But he was describing what a psychopath was. And it was funny because the guy says, you know, don't throw those medical terms at me. I'll lose my train of thought and everything. That's not, you know, I don't think along those terms. I don't know. I just know what she is. But he was describing the psychopath characteristics. Now, if you don't understand what a psychopath is, you need to. You have to understand what con artists are, because that's how we're being controlled. You won't be able to understand how we're being tricked unless you understand this. There are 6 types of psychopaths. Watch Defense Against the Psychopath. They explain there are 6 types of psychopath. There's the malevolent psychopath. These are the sociopaths. These are the real nightmares in our dreams, or the Freddy Kruegers and those type of people. The ones that can kill dozens of people in their life, serial killers. But then there's the professional psychopath. And that's what this man was talking about, his sister. She was a professional psychopath. And that's where we're at. You got very sick people at the very top. They hire a bunch of other sick people that would do things none of us can even think of. Now, this can be overwhelming unless you don't understand that we do have a role to play in solving this problem, and it is within our control. We can do something about this. This sick aspect of us is a reflection of us. And that aspect of us will change when all of us change. And you know, if you watch my videos, that's all I talk about every time. How important it is for us to play our role. Because either we keep us where we are, or we get us to where we need to be. And right now, where we are is we have the sickest of us, the professional psychopaths, who are controlling us. But from what I'm hearing, this is changing right now. There's a lot of powerful things happening right now. There are revolutions all around the world. We're waking up and identifying who these players are in our society. And I don't believe in punishing anybody. But I sure do believe in taking away control from people that are usurping our own Constitution. And it's being done through bureaucracies. And this is one of the most exciting things they found recently. They've identified the shadow government that is protecting the upper elite. It's called the SES. Senior Executive Services. That's what it's called. And these are the people who are supposed to investigate the bad politicians. But they're all psychopaths, every one of them. And we're finally waking up to that realization. So that's a big part of what we have to do downstream, dealing with the damage done to our society. But the main role we play is going upstream and getting reconnected, because that's how we ultimately defeat these psychopaths. We've got to overcome this conventional wisdom. We have to realize that our brains have been bombarded by bullshit that in effect make us brain dead on certain subjects. We can't even talk about certain subjects because we already think we have the answer. We got too many references that support bullshit. And that's what it is. And I emphasize this over and over. To evaluate evidence, you have to look at both sides. And if you don't understand how to identify a con artist, you won't be able to understand when you're being tricked. So it behooves all of us to get educated. Please, I'll put a link down below to Defense Against the Psychopath. Great, great video, YouTube video. The Con Artist Handbook, the link to that is gone. I got to figure out some way to bring that back to life. I'll be working on that. But in the meantime, you guys need to get out there and, again, get educated. This is one of the most important things that we can do on the hero's journey. It's one of the 5 main things we do on the hero's journey. So we go out there and we gather some data. We gather allies. And don't forget those obstacles. It's those psychopaths I keep warning you about. They're predictable. They're easy to spot. And that's what they fear the most. But when you confront one of these guys, you got to be prepared. You got to have people on your side behind you that will reinforce what you're saying. Otherwise, you won't have a chance. So, conventional wisdom. Please read that article by Dr. Tim O'Shea. I'll put a link down below to that article. And he gives lots of examples of conventional wisdom. And boy, the vaccines are right up there on the top of the list, aren't they? One of the biggest scams they've ever foisted on us, making us think that we can become immune to the law of cause and effect. It doesn't work that way. Whoa, did you see that butterfly? It reminds me of what happened to me just a while ago. I had to share this story. Before I came out here, I was riding, took a little side street off of Rivercrest because I wanted to tape some of my ideas I was thinking about. So I didn't go straight down Briar Forest. I did a little horseshoe. Here's Briar Forest, and there's a little horseshoe that goes like this. Well, when I'm coming up that horseshoe, about right in this area right here, there's an area where I actually show when Houston flooded, there's a crevice right in that area, a ravine, and that's where the flooding came back into that neighborhood. And a lot of coyotes come up out of that neighborhood. But as I was biking this direction, let me see, here's Briar Forest, here we got this loop. I was right up in here, and a hawk came out of nowhere, and flew as far as the camera is away from me right now, about 5 feet, at my eye level. It just went right straight across. It came out of nowhere because it's like I'm going through a blind tunnel almost. You know, trees covered everywhere. And out of nowhere came this hawk, and it flew right straight in front of me. And then, of course, remember, here's Briar Forest, and here's that loop. Okay, I'm going along this loop, and as I come out on this way, as I was coming over here, guess what? That hawk came out again, flew right in front of me again. What does that mean? It's amazing. I saw Christina did a video the other day talking about a hawk and how that has some significance. I can't remember what she said, but this happened twice. What does it mean when it happens twice? Tell me below. Tell me. Except this time, it was about 50 feet in front of me. But still, how many times does that happen in anyone's life? Is that some sort of harbinger? What's that trying to tell me? Anyway, I had to tell somebody that story. I was going to sneak it into this video anyway. Getting back to the main point. It's really sad, isn't it? Look at that bumblebee. Hey, guy. Can you hear him? He was out here a little while ago. We're so stupid. Just tell us something a couple million times and we'll believe it. And that's what's happening. Please watch Satan's Secret Weapon. I'll put a link down below. The people who control us rely on the fact that they bombard our brain with so much bullshit they can push a couple buttons and we'll get all emotional and our intellect will just fly out the window. And it all has to do with finding out the truth about usury. Remember, my whole YouTube channel is about 2 main stories. Getting healthy and understand, that's the ultimate tool of control, is when we're not healthy, that's how they're controlling us. And then usury. There's a lot of stories that are associated with usury that all lead back to usury. Every one of those stories are lies to keep you from going back to usury. Don't get tricked into the bullshit about all the details. Forget the details. It's all about usury. John Adams, 2 ways to conquer and enslave a nation. One's by the sword, the other's by debt. We're debt slaves. We have to wake up to that reality. Very important. And what's happening now, the powers that be, every time you tell a story, they want to silence you. Just happened to one of my videos recently. They disabled the comment section on one of my good videos because the comment section was full of a lot of good links to help you people wake up to the truth. So why did they disable the comment section on my YouTube video? Because my video and my comments threaten the powers that be, and the powers that be own YouTube. Do they own you? When you read my appeal to reinstate those comments, I'll put a link down. I'll put a link to this video in that little section to appeal where you only give so many characters. I can't put enough description there, but I'll put a link there, which will come right to here. So, powers that be on YouTube, do they own you too? If they don't, we're in for a treat.